So
Yeah.
welcome to Choosing Your Major and Choosing University of Hong Kong workshop. This workshop is brought to you by University of Hong Kong. And today I'm joined here by Ying Sui, who is a program manager at University of Hong Kong, and he will be leading this session. Just a quick message to all participants. Please use the comment section to introduce yourself and interact during the workshop. And please kindly use Q&A section to post your question. Mr. Sui will be going through those questions at the end of his session. You may not see though your questions or comments immediately as they will be reviewed by the moderator, so it may take a minute or so. So please kindly do not double post. Thank you so much. And Mr. Sui, it's all yours. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you everyone for joining. I want to start off by kind of introducing myself and then do a little bit of an icebreaker so that we have to break some ice, obviously, and then just go dive right into talking about the topic today, which is about choosing a major. There are a couple of factors that I think as students you should think about when you choose a major. Perhaps you have already decided on your major. That's great, but there's still it wouldn't hurt really to have a second opinion and to think about what factors might be helpful for you when you are choosing a major or choosing a university. And then I will finish the session by talking a little bit about the University of Hong Kong and the application process. So with that, let me just start off by doing a very quick icebreaker. And this is where if you're on your cell phone, if you're on a computer, by all means, please do I would have instruction for you. Just give me 1 second. Let me stop sharing very quickly and go back to, I'm going to reshare my screen again so that you would be able to see. Just give me 1 second here. Now, okay. Trying to toggle between a couple of different windows. To bear with me for a second. Now, let me reshare my screen. This time I'm going to go to a preset. Sorry for the wait, trying to get a few things started. So now that should do it. Okay. Sorry about that. So there are, I'm using a software called Mentimeter, as you can see on this. I hope you can see my screen right now. So what's going to happen is that you're going to go either to this, you can either type in this website and use a code, right? Or you can just use this link here, which I will also share in the chat. Just 1 second. Yep. So you can either go to this website again or just use the link I've just posted in the comment section. There are a couple questions just for me to get a better sense of who you are. So I see some people are typing in already. So if you're from China, be a little bit more creative. Tell us which city you're from so we get a better understanding of the demography represented in this room. So someone from Guangzhou, excellent. Okay. So let's see as we get a couple more, I guess, people responding. So again, if you just joined the room, we're just doing a very quick icebreaker. You may just go to this particular page. You go to menti.com and use the code, or you can use the link that I've just shared in the comment section. If you're using a phone, I think this should be very phone friendly. You can by all means do that. I have 5 responses so far. I don't know if the others are just waiting for me to get into the actual content, which we will get to in just a couple of minutes. But that's just for me to get a better sense of who I'm speaking to and kind of in what way I could better support kind of you as a student. So, okay, I guess that's it. 6 responses. I think you can do better than that, but let me just go to the next one. Hold on. My next question would be, okay, tell me something, how you feel today. Use one word to describe how you feel so I can kind of gauge the energy level. It's always difficult to gauge the energy level of a room when you're not actually physically with the students. So definitely that is something that will help me kind of understand the dynamics a little bit more. So hopefully for those who are not responding, you're just as excited as I am. And you're going to be learning something. I hope it will be special for you. So yeah, someone feeling fatigued. I definitely feel you. This is the 10 p.m. for me right now. So it's a little bit, it's been a pretty long day for me as well. So I definitely understand that. And I'll try my best to freshen you up if possible. Now, perhaps we'll get to the last one. Right. So tell me something that you want to learn about HAU today. So I will do my best. This is the last question, obviously. So I will do my best, very best, to help kind of bridge that knowledge gap so that you can get a little bit more information that is more relevant to what you want to get out of. So it could be anything that you want to learn. We'll learn about interview. Okay, that's very practical. So thank you very much. I'm not expecting that this early, but definitely I'm happy to tell you more. Facilities. Okay, good. Requirements. We will get to that in the slides, but that's towards the end. Want to talk about different majors, engineering. Good. AP student, how students can apply. Okay, we get to all the application stuff in this presentation, but that will be towards the end of the session. Now, obviously, you can keep them coming because we still have the chats and the Q&A function available. So definitely keep them coming. I'm happy to kind of address them towards the end. Application stuff. So great. So now I have a better understanding of where we're at. So let me go back to my slide. So thank you very much for taking the time to participate. I hope you find it a good change of scene in some ways. Of perhaps you're expecting something different, something more informational, which we'll get to. Now, let me just first and foremost to kind of reiterate what I'm hoping to achieve with this particular session. So now at the let me change the view perhaps. Let's change to the presentation view. All right. So what is going to happen today is that I'm going to be talking about a couple of points that as a student, I don't know if most of you will be in your final year or if you're kind of still in the earlier days, you may be exploring a little bit more. I'm trying to kind of tailor the session so that it works for most students, regardless of which stage you're at. And this is a topic on choosing a major. So obviously, choosing a major, it can mean very different things. If you're applying to the US, chances are you don't really have to choose a major. You can just go in and decide it. In many different countries, I believe also in some ways, including Canada, you kind of have to decide at least kind of the direction where we want to go into. So obviously, with that question, right, there's always the fear, always the potential, the danger of choosing the wrong thing. And usually that could mean if you're not in the US, again, you're not talking about liberal arts kind of education. There could be an issue because you need to transfer. Sometimes it's not going to be as easy for you to transfer. So getting it right actually is very important, I would say. So what I'm going to do is to kind of give a few pointers and kind of indication of how you can actually help you through the process of to think through what kind of major, what kind of program actually work for you. So with that, let me just begin. Now let's talk about programs. So we all know that there are the common type of programs where you apply to a particular program, you just study that thing. That's very common, and I think it has pretty much dominated the whole higher education scene in many different countries. I mean, think UK application, think a lot of European countries as well, where you apply to that major, you study through that major, and that's it, you're done. So now I would say that over the years, there have been a lot of ways how people are reimagining how program selection, how major selection would be. Would differ from what it used to be the case many years ago when I was a student myself. So there are new types of programs that actually spring as a result of that. So we are looking at increasingly more interdisciplinary programs that exist not just in North America, not just in North America, I would say, but also in other parts of the world, where students come in to a program. It is designed in such a way that they have learned arts, humanities, social sciences, and science all in one in the same program. And it's a structured curriculum that they have to go through it. Some university, like probably you can think of, have a structured program like that. I believe UCL and also a number of other universities that have something what they call BAS degree, where you get a Bachelor of Arts and Sciences degree. So this is very different from what it used to be the case, where if you want to become a computer engineer, all you need to do is just study computer engineering. This has really changed. I would say in the past 10, 15 years, it has really there's so many more interdisciplinary programs out there. And in Hong Kong, also at HKU, we also have that. So I'll get to that in a little bit. Now we're also looking at joint degree programs. That comes in many different forms. So there are programs offered by two universities, right? So you get a joint degree, or you get a double degree, a dual degree, or you get a bachelor that you can directly articulate into a master program. So you get a good deal, essentially. Like you're applying to the program, you finish the bachelor, and then you immediately complete that master degree with a kind of like an expedited track. So in the US, sometimes it's like 5 years, sometimes depending on what you do, maybe 6 years. So again, really emphasizing on the value that students can get out of the time that they spend in the program. And these are what we call joint degree or dual degree programs. Now, there's also another type focusing on the practical, the hands-on aspect, and Canada is huge on that, right? The co-op program, where students are gonna be in some ways they're gonna be studying, and they may go to work, and then they would be making some money, and then that will help finance the study later on. So it will be a longer program, but they get that hands-on internship, whatever experience that they may have. In some countries, I think in the UK, they call it sandwich year. In different countries, they call it differently. But the essence the same. So you apply to a program, you have that hands-on experience that is kind of integrated into the program itself. So you're getting your credit, you're getting your pay, you're getting that full experience whatsoever. So as you can see, the whole education landscape higher education landscape has really changed globally, and that's something that I think as students you need to be aware of these kind of options when you're weighing out kind of what works for you and what does not. So now we also want to think about the job market, right? When you think about a major, a lot of the times, I see most students here are Asian students, right? Most people are Asian, or most people are Chinese, and the job is a big deal, right? I mean, even if it's not for yourself, it was definitely the case for your parents. Okay, so that's the reality that sometimes we face, and we see how students also choose their major based on jobs. And that there's nothing wrong with that, okay? But the job market really changed quite drastically. We understand COVID changes a lot of things of how we look at vocation, how we look at career prospect, how we look at jobs in general. There's many of you know about the movement of quiet quitting, right? That's in the US and in the West, where people are just doing the bare minimum. They're just trying to get whatever they want. In that way, I mean, I'm not saying that whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, but I would say in some ways that is not really fully utilizing the potential that you have. So choosing a major that actually get you into a job, and not just any job, but a fulfilling job, is a big challenge. And that's something that, for every single student, I think that should be at least at the back of your head, even if you do not know which major works for you, but you need to be thinking along those lines when you're actually making those choices. So now, some high demand industry I want to talk about here is that we see basically they're not really going to go away. So what kind of industry is not going to really go away? It's the area where it involves a lot of specialization. It involves working with people, right? And that working with people aspect is going to be huge. A lot of students, sometimes I talk to students and they will say, hey, I'm not sure if what I'm doing, actually my job will be taken by robots in the future. Now, that question is best answered by understanding or asking yourself, okay, what makes whatever you do different from a completely operational point of view. If you are just doing spreadsheets, right, and you're just kind of repeating that every single day, then probably that kind of job will be taken by someone else in the future. Now, but if you are running or managing processes, you are working with people, you're trying to work with people, you could try to educate them, you could try to persuade them, you try to do something that has human touch, talk about human touch. If that aspect is part of what you're going to do, then chances are that's not going to be taken away. So we see that something obviously very relevant today. A lot of in Asia, especially, we see a lot of students going into medicine. I don't know if it's a stereotype or anything, right? The Asian dream, right, to be a doctor or something like that. But medical doctors are not likely going to be replaced because they're working with people. They're professional. They're a profession where you actually work with people. And that's something that cannot be taken away by robots or automation and all of that. So that's something you need to think about. And a lot of time when you think about jobs, there are jobs that don't exist simply. Like you cannot really predict the job market. With COVID-19, we see a lot of things going online. Sessions like these being made available where 10 years, 15 years ago, you ask the professor, they would say it's not possible. There's no way they can do online classes. They would tell you that. But with COVID, now everything got moved online. And now what used to be impossible is now possible. Not just possible, and everyone is doing it, right? So it's not possible. Again, it's not possible for you to kind of predict what kind of jobs would exist 10 years. By the time you finish your undergrad, maybe in 5 years, in 10 years, by the time you get to have some work experience, you cannot predict that. Right. So we are looking at skills. So what is the most important thing? What's the biggest takeaway is that you're looking at skills that you can take away, the skills that are future proof, and the necessity to reskill. Right. So people going into an industry, you work for a couple of years and you realize there's a gap. So you have to go back to school perhaps, or you have to go into some workshops to learn something new so that you will be more fit for the job. And that is going to be something that we expect. We're always learning, right? And then that we expect that that kind of change is going to constantly happen in whatever profession is going to be working in. If that change doesn't really happen, then I think there's a problem with the industry that you choose, and perhaps your job may be taken by AI robots. But if you're willing to change, if you're willing to gain those kind of skills, then you will be very job market ready, regardless of which industry you go into. So that's kind of something that you want to keep in mind. So what are some of the skills that I talk about that is going to be universal, that's going to be useful regardless of what you do? So I know the students will always tell me, right, like they're just not good at math. Okay, I hate to break it to you, but if you want to, most industry, I would say, out there, would require you to have a good level of English or language, depending where you work, and math, right? You don't have to be a professor in math, right? You don't have to solve like very complex, advanced calculus, but you do have to be, aware of the fact that your math is going to be important. And it's not just important for jobs; it's also important for when you go to university, perhaps a placement test that you have to take, perhaps something that in the future, right? Everything is going to be intertwined with technology. So having that math is not just about solving problems. Again, it's about the training of logic, the training of reasoning. Actually, my third point here as well. These are the skills that, regardless of what industry you're going to need. Now, what about some other things? Perhaps leadership. How do you talk to people? Again, that relates to the fact that you're going to be working with people. That's the most important thing to differentiate what you do and what an AI does, right? Is that you're working with people. You're doing things so that you help these people, and you are adjusting based on these people's preferences or how they work. So that is going to be universal. So regardless of what you do, you need that. How about events that's going on right now? So you want to learn about something that's going on. You want to be aware of them, right? You want to be engaged in discussion. That you don't want to take sides too early. You want to kind of fully explore what's going on. Why do people do certain things? Why do people think otherwise? That's a good way for you to develop that kind of understanding, where you can relate to people who are different from you. That would be the case, obviously, in university, but also in your future workplace. Understanding that differences and being able to share that knowledge and be again, I go back to the word interdisciplinary. That's so important because when you go into the work field, the industry, you are working with people who are very, very different from you. So how does an engineer promote their ideas to a business leader who has no formal engineering training, but they are the biggest investor in the company, right? How do you translate whatever the technical knowledge into something that can allow you to persuade that person to invest in whatever you are researching or selling? So that is, again, where we see there is a need for interdisciplinarity, right? So again, if you look at university application, you want to look at places that offer these kind of things. I want to look at majors that allow you to cultivate that kind of sense of personal development in these tangible areas. So what about a major? Now, let's get to the major part. I like to use, these are some pointers, obviously. They're not the only ones, of course. I like to kind of balance. I don't know. Some of you watch, Marvel, and I also watch Marvel. I watch the End Games, and the Thanos. There's a scene where he was holding this pocket knife, and it's just perfectly balanced as all things should be, right? That's kind of the line that really struck me. And the reason I said that is that in many ways, when you're thinking about big life choices, obviously choosing university, choosing major could be one big one in your life. You want to find that balance. So you want to balance out what actually matters to you. So there's the idealistic aspect where there's the interest that you think about. There is the strength. So what you're good at, what do you like to do? Are you, in terms of the value, like does your value actually align with the potential jobs that you can get? You go in through that major. What are the opportunities available? So these are all good points that you can think about, and you have to balance it with kind of the realistic aspect as well. So how much does a program cost? So let's say if you study medicine, it's going to be used in many countries. It's going to be a lot more expensive. As an international student, especially than studying, say, arts, right? So the cost factor is going to look very different depending on family background. How selective is a program? So if, again, I use the medicine example. If you apply to an Asian university, you want to study medicine, maybe not even Asian university, any university, you want to study medicine, chances are a lot of students want to study medicine, right? So this is going to be a very selective process, and perhaps you really like it, but perhaps your strength is not quite there yet. So you would be competing with these people. That may be a difficult case for you. Would there be an alternative for you to do a medical-related discipline that actually would be at a right level for you? For example, you can think of biomedical science or biomedical engineering, or something related in the health industry that perhaps would work, nursing, for example, that would also work, plays your strength, and something that works for you. So that's just one example I want to give. How much you're going to be making if you go into the industry? Again, getting very practical, right? But then that practical aspect sometimes is we kind of relegate it to our parents to make those decisions, but that really shouldn't be the case, I think. We have to balance out. It's all about balancing the idealistic part and also the realistic part, where you have to weigh in a lot of factors. So when you choose major, it is always in some ways, it's a balance game. And your counselors obviously do a very good job of doing that. But university is another way where you can do the resources. There are a lot of tests online that you can do to find out what actually works for you. And I'm sure you've done many of them yourselves as well. So I don't want to go into too much detail on that. But these are some factors when you're choosing major. That's what you want to think about. Again, I always say manage expectation is something that you should do. That is also comes into your university application. You may apply to certain places that are rich schools. I mean, we always use those terms, and some schools that are safety schools. And the fact that there are, my understanding with a lot of Asian students I know, they may apply to 15 universities, and all of them are rich schools, right? So if you do not manage your expectations properly, then you may end up not having any university to get into, because selective university admission is a little bit unpredictable, to say the least, right? So managing that expectation is very important, right? You could be a straight A student, but you only apply to Ivy Leagues, and you know that the competition is still going to be really high. So think about that. How do you manage your expectation yourself? And I would say with the world that we live in right now, global thinking is important, but also local thinking. The reason I say that is because it is a, I think geopolitics play a big part in the world that we live in right now. So, of course, you want to make new friends, you want to learn from different perspectives. But how do you make those perspectives work in a local context? So that's kind of the question I always ask. If you are going to another country, studying in another country, think about how that experience relates to what you want to do locally in wherever you're from, maybe your family's roots or whatever that is. Think about how to balance those two, and how about applying those two, because you cannot just say, I just want an international experience. Then what's the impact there, right? So what do you get out of that you want to kind of use to benefit your local community? Because you have to also be aware of your roots and your culture and all of that actually plays a part in yourself and how you become who you are. So that's something that you want to think about. And again, balancing a program in terms of the breadth and the depth. So what I mean is that if you apply this actually is very I would say very much very apparent, I would say, when you apply to UK versus the US schools. So I don't know how many of you actually apply to the UK. I'm guessing quite a lot of you actually apply to Canada, obviously, right? But then finding that balance is very important, right? Some 3-year programs, UK offer a lot of 3-year programs, and that is very much, you just have to hit the ground running in the first year, because you have to finish the degree in 3 years. That's not going to leave a lot of room for exploration. It's not going to leave a lot of room for change. I mean, if you decide, hey, that really doesn't work for me, that's not something that I want, I kind of regretted it, I want to change it, it's not going to be that easy. So think about that. Or if you want to go completely all breadth, you want to think about programs that do not allow you to kind of explore, become a major very late. Is obviously it is beneficial in some ways, but if you are thinking about doing a very professional study, that may not be the best way for you to spend your time. So you, again, finding that balance and looking for options that can meet the need that works for you, and it works for you, right? It's not about what works for your classmate. It's not about what works for your parents even, because a lot of times parents project what they want to do to the kids, and find a balance that works for you. I think that is key. And last but not least, obviously know when to compromise and when not to compromise. There are things that you can compromise, and there are things that you should not. So that is kind of the overall arching kind of theme that I kind of want to talk about, and I want to talk about the program that offered by HKU, and how that actually provide the range of options for students, regardless of kind of where you're at. So at the University of Hong Kong, what we do is that there are different types of programs students can apply to. So they are what we call the common admissions program. These are more broad-based, more flexible program where students apply to a particular school. So they apply to either the faculty of business, a business school. They apply to, say, the faculty of science. And then they have 1 year or up to 2 years to explore what kind of major works for them. So they will be doing the foundational courses. This is in some ways similar to US, but not so much. It's not US is completely liberal arts, but HAU is not quite so. So you have that time to explore within a particular context. So if you want to do social sciences, right, that is kind of where you're going to be exploring. And with that, then you have a little bit of time to kind of decide and try out different things during your first year before you kind of make a commitment. With the common admissions program at HAU, you also have the options to double major or do a minor. And that can be from the same faculty, that can be from another faculty. That's completely dependent on what works for you. So we have students who do something like a psychology first major and then do a second major in, say, marketing or something. So perhaps they can use that to in the future to do something related to behavioral psychology. Perhaps people's they can research about why do people buy certain things from the perspective of marketing and also psychology. So that's one example, obviously, of what you can do with your HAU degree. There are professional degrees. Now, professional degrees work very differently depending on the country. In the case of Hong Kong, it's very similar to the UK. So you are going to get some sort of a professional accreditation by the time you finish. So it is going to be more rigid than other programs. So you're going to go straight into the program studying that particular subject. And by the time you finish your whatever 4 years, 5 years, 6 years, then you will be able to graduate with a professional degree that will allow you to practice in that area. So something like law, like medicine, in the case of Hong Kong, law, medicine, dentistry, and say engineering perhaps, that is fall under the professional programs. So these are programs that if you have a really good grasp of what you want to do, that will work for you in the case of HAU. Interdisciplinary programs. So HAU has a number of them because HAU is a comprehensive university. So we see a lot of students having that option to kind of really explore and find out what works for them. And then in the curriculum design itself, students will be taking courses from different places, from different faculties. And I give one example is where students will be learning about, we have a program called Bachelor of Arts and Sciences in Global Health and Development. So it's very much like a public health degree, but you will be learning both from the aspect of kind of the public prevention, disease prevention aspect that is in some ways to do with management, but we'll also be learning something like climate changes, perhaps climate changes, the relationship or geography relationship with, say, disease, how disease spread. Or you may be learning about urban structures, city design, building cities, or how cities build in such a way that would favor disease spreading, for example, public health. So again, you are covering many different aspects in these kind of what we call interdisciplinary programs. So this would work for students who kind of like to explore, but kind of they already know that they have an idea of what they want to study. Is not confined in a particular area. So these are programs that work with these students, and also obviously double degree and dual degree, where students can get 2 or even more degrees by the time they finish that structured program. So this is different from you do a double major because you're still only getting 1 degree, but whereas you get a double degree, it's going to be 2 degrees by the time you finish. In HAU, also allows students to apply for up to 3 programs on the application form. I know many universities allow that. For HAU, although you don't have the option to come in undecided, you have the option to choose up to 3 program choices. So you have a bit more flexibility there as well. Now, let me talk about the whole the suite of majors and programs that we offer. At HAU, we are, as I mentioned, a comprehensive university. So that means we offer a wide range of programs from different areas, as you can see here. So students can do double major again, and a common admissions program where students can declare a major from one of these programs, a Bachelor of Arts or BBA or Bachelor of Engineering, where they have the option to choose a major only after they get it. So they are not completely undecided, but they have the flexibility to choose from different things within that faculty. And that's just something that we want students to explore. We want students to take control of take ownership of what they want to study. And that can be done by doing different things, combining different things that work for them. Again, that's huge. That's really the HAU philosophy. Is we understand it's not possible for us to offer program that just work for every single student, and instead, perhaps students can explore and have that flexibility in between. So that would work. The program, they will find things that work for them. So we're moving the power, that the selection, the choice, we're giving that to students so that they can make a choice that fit their own needs. Professional degree, I talk about, there are programs that may take longer to complete, works for students who know what they want to study before university, and they know that's their passion. There are actually some ways where you can discover your passion. I'm sure your counselors can give you more resources, but there are also resources by university. I mentioned there's summer school you can attend. There are enrichment opportunities offered by universities, sometimes at a very low cost, even, I would say, depending on the university. So actually, you also have something like that, where students can get a taste of what it's like to be a dentist, for example. So that really helps students to get a realistic idea of what that study or that industry entails, instead of kind of like a more vague version of what they think that industry or the profession does. So in our curriculum, we also offer something called a Common Core. These are interdisciplinary programs. So we put every single student in the same class. So you choose a class, then you will be sitting with an engineering student. You could be sitting with a business student or medical student. You're learning the same thing. So you're learning something like money laundering, something like that, right? How to make money. This actual program is about money laundering, actually, and you talk about how economies, how shady businesses, and how people make use of gaps in some regulations and things like that. How they actually make money that way legally in some ways. And that covers, not just economics. It's also cover about, governments and countries, and in psychology as well. So it's covering a lot of different things in just one single topic, where you're exploring different things. And the interesting thing about these Common Core programs is that we allow students, you as much as you're learning from a professor, you're also learning from your peers as they're sitting in the same class. They're coming from different perspectives, approaching the same topic with a different lens. And that is, I think, the beauty of higher education, and the beauty of what we expect, students, when you go into the workforce, that's what you're going to be doing as well. So just one quick example, and that's something that every single student coming into HAU you have to do. This is one of the what we call Common Core. And we also understand that there's a huge demand in terms of big data. Now, this maybe perhaps I'm kind of going off track a little bit, but HAU last year we launched a number of big data programs. We think data is going to be the future, and big data is not just a lot of numbers, right? I mean, it is a lot of numbers, but it requires a different way to process them and to analyze them. And HAU, because of the curriculum, the faculty design, the comprehensiveness of the university, we are allowing students to be learning from different discipline, different faculty towards what we call a big data program. So, for example, in this program here, right, Bachelor of Science in Marketing Analytics and Technology, this is a program understanding how you make use of data in actually selling products. So it's more than just programming and the data knowledge. It's also about how you use them in a particular discipline, and in this particular case, to market a product. So this is actually co-authored by the HAU Business School, and also the HAU Faculty of Science, and also Faculty of Engineering, and I think Faculty of Law as well, if I'm not mistaken. So and in that way, allowing students to have that broad perspective, and it's not just about being a data engineer or data analyst, but about using them in a real world setting. And HAU, last but not least, I talked about the dual degree program earlier, where you recognize that HAU has a number of collaboration with universities in different places. UBC program, perhaps I can talk about that, where students actually get 2 degrees in 4 years' time. You get 1 degree from UBC and 1 degree from HAU. They spend 2 years in each location, and they can do 2 different major at 2 different universities, but all have to be confined in their business. And it's just a great way. And I would say that when I was a student, none of these kind of options that exist. I would say, I don't think I'm that old, but I would say that I didn't know about any of these kind of programs. And now, if you do a bit more research, you'll find a lot of such programs out there, where if you are academically very ambitious, you are someone who's kind of like a global citizen, you kind of want to experience 2 things in one go, right? This might be the program for you. Do a bit of research. Perhaps this would be something that you may find interesting. And HKU also has a number of those. Now, I don't want to spend too much time talking about the university. I think most of you probably know about the university in terms of rankings and figures. So skip this and just go straight into the admissions requirements. So I hope I in some ways get you excited about applying to HKU. I'm very passionate about telling students about my university. I think it's a great higher education destination for students. And the way we do our admissions can be quite different depending on what you're used to. So like Canada, perhaps with the exception of Ontario, we run our own application. And you have to, when you apply to HKU, you apply through our online application system, what's called the international admissions. Now, what is going to happen is that we just purely, when we look at your application, we look at whatever you're studying. So if you're completing a Canadian high school curriculum, regardless of what kind of passport you're holding, then you're applying through that pathway. You could be from Hong Kong originally, you could be from mainland China, you could be studying in Canada. It doesn't really matter. So you're just applying to the university with your Canadian high school diploma and your results, then you'll be applying through what we call the international admissions pathway. We have information published on our website in terms of kind of the grade requirements. I would say HKU is quite strict on the grade requirements. So academic is the first thing we look at in assessing applications. I think partially because we receive a lot more applications than we can accept. And that's simply the fact. And we have to unfortunately do a lot of our screening based on academic and in the first kind of first pass. And then we also look at students meeting other requirements such as English. That's a requirement. You have to know English at a proficient level because all the courses are taught in English at HKU. HKU has something called a second language that is a non-English language, which could be Chinese, it could be any other language, in fact. So if you would like, you can find out more actually on our website. And also, depending on what you apply to, there may be a program requirement. And after we look at the academics, we will be looking at your entire profile. So what that means is that we will be looking at what you do in terms of extracurricular, your personal statement that you have to submit. So that is a requirement. And then reference letter from your teachers, counselors, or outside referee. We accept all of that. And that is really looking for that indication, that evidence of whether you'll be a good fit to the program and whether you demonstrate qualities that we are looking for. And that forms the holistic assessment of the University of Hong Kong. So first, you need to meet the academic requirements, and second, you need to actually demonstrate additional strength for your application to be competitive, because purely based on grades, it's not possible for us to accept everyone that meet the academic requirements of the university. So that is something you need to know about the admissions process. And your counselors can also help you in a great way. So we will be looking at your high school transcript for Canadian high school students, perhaps your last 2 to 3 years. That will be what we're looking at in terms of the transcripts. And if your school issue any kind of prediction results, that would be something we look at as well. So we highly recommend students, counselors, schools to provide the information for us to assess your academic fit. So again, the academic fit is a big piece, but it's not the only piece for the admissions to University of Hong Kong. So we look at your academic piece, we look at your non-academic piece, and also look at the overall applicant pool, because that is going to play a big factor these days. I think there are simply, again, too many applications and not enough seats for us to accept. I think I talked about the 3 program choices earlier. So with that, actually, I would close here. But before I actually finish and actually start accepting questions, what I would actually say, let me see if I can get my screen, get my video back up again. What I would actually say is the fact that, when you apply to HAU, another thing that you want to keep in mind is that you can actually be considered for HAU scholarships. So that is every single student apply to HAU, you will be considered automatically based on your profile. So that's one thing you need to know about. And interview, because some students actually ask interview. I want to talk about that. Interview is not a requirement depending on what you apply to. So the general rule of thumb, if you apply to a very competitive program, there usually would be an interview. If you apply to a program where they are looking for more than simply they are more selective, then there may be additional assessment, simply because, again, they are really looking for the evidence that you're gonna do. And the bottom line for a lot of these programs, they don't want you to fail after you come in. I don't think that happens very often, but they want to make sure that it is something that you want to do, and you understand why you want to do certain things. So this is where I think personal statement can help in a great way, because you're actually writing out the reason why you applied to the program. And I think my experience is that when you actually do it actively, you kind of you verbalize, or you put into words, what is thinking in your head. You kind of organize them in a way where you actually you will be able to actually talk and persuade people why that is a profession that suits you. And writing is going to be a big part in university education as well. So you might as well just do that. So I know students may be writing a lot depending on the universities you apply to, but I think it is important. So again, going back to what I talked about, English and also the math literacy, and those two things kind of go hand in hand, and you need them regardless of what kind of program you study in. If you're not good at math, that's not the end of the world, but it's probably good for you to be able to do the basic stuff, right? To do the introductory level math, and just work hard. I believe every single student has the capacity to do that. You don't have to be a professor of math, but I think that would help you in a long way. And with that, right, I think I see quite a lot of questions. So I am not sure. I'm guessing this is probably going to be a good time for me to address them. And in the last 10 minutes or so.
That's great. Thank you so much, Mr. Swai, for this, for such an informative session. I personally enjoyed a lot. We do have a few questions under Q&A, and what I will do is that I'm going to start reading those questions to you, and you can answer them. The first question which you started is a focus on the admission criteria. So how does the university manage the number of international students, and how many international students will be accepted in 2023?
That's an excellent question. I think different universities does it differently, but I mean, without going into too like a very technical detail, a lot of universities these days practice what they call enrollment management, and it's actually not. It's the same thing. I mean, I think a lot of universities does that. What that means is that they're trying to balance different priorities in the application pool. Universities may have different institutional goals that they're trying to either balance their incoming class. They want to make sure it is an interesting class, make sure there are enough majors to different programs. They want to make sure financially it's going to be sustainable for them. So there will be a number of students who would be paying. There are a number of students who would be receiving scholarships. So different universities does this very differently. So without going into the details, there are some constraint you need to know about universities in Hong Kong in general. So there is a cap in terms of how many international students we can take in Hong Kong, and that applies to every single university in Hong Kong. In fact, that is a mandate by the Hong Kong Education Bureau, where we pretty much can only cap it at roughly about 25%. So we cannot just accept as many international students, even if they are full paying. We simply cannot do it. That's as a public university with a public mission, is simply not possible. So in the case of Hong Kong, what you would be looking at is roughly about 700 to 800 international students coming in, non-local students, I would say, probably correct that, non-local students coming into Hong Kong, HAU to study every cohort. So what that is going to look like is that there will be students from mainland China that actually make up a significant portion, and then there will be also students from everywhere else. And again, that is not because it's not really because of favoritism, but it's simply because in terms of location, we just historically have more applications from mainland China simply because of the proximity. So I would say let me kind of make sure I'm reading everything correctly. The requirements you can actually refer to our website, but what I would say the best thing. The best way or best time for students to apply is to make sure if HAU is somewhere within your first few choices, I think you should apply early. So HAU has an early, we don't have an early application, but our application is quite early. So we have an application in first round application deadline in 2 weeks, actually no, 3 weeks. Mid-November will be our first round application deadline. And then after that, then we will go through what we call rolling admissions. So rolling application. So students can apply anytime during that rolling round, and they will be assessed basically on a rolling basis. So if you apply in February, perhaps your application will only be read in March. And when faculty decide whether they want to issue an offer in March, they would have to factor in the fact that how many acceptance they've already sent out at that point. So that if HAU is one of your first choices, if you're applying to a very competitive program, definitely applying early is going to be beneficial to you. And HAU, all the application, we are non-binding. Like all the offers that we issue are not binding. So if you decide not to come, that's perfectly fine. We won't penalize you for it, but if you want to reserve a spot, you do have to make an admissions deposit. So that's something you need to know about. I think with the question, they also asked about halls and accommodation where students live. International students would be given a priority in the first year. In most cases, they would be able to live on a near campus. We don't have a lot of on-campus housing, but near campus, so many of them walkable from the university. And not going to lie, it's not going to be big rooms. Hong Kong is not known for spacious living spaces, but you won't be spending that much time in your room anyways, other than sleeping, I would say. So lots of things for you to do. And for international students, that really shouldn't be your major concern.
That's great.
I will make sure to support you. Yeah.
The next question is, what is the most popular major at University of Hong Kong? I noticed that you mentioned in your job marketing consideration slide that you mentioned medicine, engineering, and education as a high demand programs. So I will just put the follow-up question for that as well. That is, are the admission criteria different for those competitive majors as compared to the other programs?
That's absolutely a great question. I would say, actually, you may be surprised to hear that medicine obviously is going to be popular, regardless of, I think any country, I would say, that medical profession is always have that halo, right? I mean, everyone want to get in. And that's definitely the case for Asian students. And they may be studying all their lives for that moment to get into the medical program. So it's going to be very competitive. And So education is going to be competitive in some ways, but not in the way of academics. So the program for education is really looking for people who want to be educators. And I understand that's not for everyone. It's not something, some people, they will just tell you, all they care about is to make money, right? So they want to go into business or they want to go into computer science. That's where the money's at. And I respect that. But I mean, that is not the kind of students we look for in the education program. And we want students who want to do, who want to teach, who want to kind of impart knowledge. And that is not for everyone, again. So in terms of selectivity, what is going to happen is that they will be more selective in terms of your motivation to go into the program. Not as much as, you have to have perfect grades, but about, why do you want to do education? What do you see yourself doing? Why do you love to teach, or why do you apply to that particular program in the first place? So that they will be more selective in that sense. So they will also interview students. they would be looking at that motivation letter piece a lot more so than if you apply to another program. For engineering, it's usually a hit or miss, I would say. In HKU's case, most students applying to our computer science program. And again, I think that is a very practical consideration there, and especially so for international students. So I would say for engineering, it is selective if you apply to computer science, and it's not really. I would say it's not, in terms of grade, it's not super selective, but they are very selective about your math and physics, your grades, especially in those two subjects when they consider application. So this, again, as I said, it looks very different for international students than from students in Hong Kong. And I think for international students, business program and engineering program always going to be the highest kind of where you will see the biggest competition, because everyone is applying to these programs.
That's great. Thank you so much, Mr. Soy. Another question is about, in particular, to our OSSD program, Ontario Secondary School Diploma Program. So the question being asked is that is there a preference, based on your experience, is there any preference for the students who attend our 2-year program, 3-year program, or 1-year program of OSSD?
As long as you get out, you get that certificate, there is no preference. There's no difference in terms of how we assess it. But again, as I said, we are not going to be just looking at your final year, even if you only do it for 1 year. So we are still looking for context. We're still looking for that, ideally, at least 3 years, we'll say, ideally 3, or maybe in some cases, you may want to provide 4. We are looking for all of that. So I would say it's not going to be a disadvantage simply because you do it for longer or for shorter. But, having that record, understanding that we are looking for evidence, right, of you succeeding in the program that you apply to, and that would come in form of how we look at the transcripts for the past couple of years as well. So it's not just your final grade 12 results.
That's great. So the next set of questions are related to the job. So basically, can the first year students get a job either in campus or out of campus?
That's a good question. What is with a full-time student visa? There are limits in terms of what you can do. So what you can do is that you can work on campus for up to 20 hours a week. That is provided you find a job. There's no guarantee that you can find a job, but just based on your visa type, that's what you can do. You are also able to, during off time, so for example, summer, you can get paid internships in Hong Kong. You can do that, so there's no restriction. You can also take, with the faculty approval, you can take time off so that you can pursue a paid either paid internship or some sort of a job as well. With that approval, you can do it. Usually you have to prove that it's related to what you're studying. And if you do, I think they would usually allow you to do that. And those would be what is allowed with a full-time student visa to study in Hong Kong. You cannot, as an international student, you cannot do a full-time course load and work off campus at the same time. So it's not possible.
That's great. The next question which came in is, what is the cost of living and schooling at University of Hong Kong?
That really, I'm not proud to say that, but I think HKU has one of the highest tuition fee in Hong Kong. And right now, I talked about scholarship piece earlier. So if you do not get any scholarship, because you will be considered, but you may not always get it. So if you do not get scholarships, our tuition fee per year, so I'm quoting a per year amount, would be at about, let me do the math in my head. It would be about $25,000 US a year. And for HKU, it's very simple. I understand this is different from Canada. If you study any program, you're paying the same fee. And if your program is 4 years, then you times 4, and that's it. There's no inflation. So if you're paying that fee during your first year, your second year you're paying the same fee. The third year you pay the same fee, and then fourth year you pay the same fee. For HKU, is easier for you to kind of calculate how much you would need. but obviously that living cost may go up. So 25, usually 25,000 US dollars. If you don't get any scholarship, that's what you're expected to pay. And in terms of living, if you live on campus or live in a dorm, we expect students will be spending somewhere between 5,000 US dollars to 8,000 US dollars. I think if you want to be more realistic, probably closer to 8,000 a year, again, one academic year. So if you add that all up, that would be roughly about 33,000 US dollars. I don't have the calculator in my head to convert that to Canadian dollars, but you get the idea.
That's right. Thank you so much, Mr. Soy. We are running out of time, and we got great questions. Is there any possible way, a contact information where our participants can reach out to either you or to University of Hong Kong to get some clarification either about the admissions, about the extracurricular activities, and so on?
Yeah, I would say that probably the best way for you to do, because I understand we have a time difference, and it's a pretty bad one, right? It's a 12-hour time difference. Sometimes it would be difficult. We understand, especially if you're based in Canada, like it will be difficult for you to get in touch with the office. If you are based in Asia, however, we have every week we'll open, at least for now, till application closed in November. We have a dedicated staff that you can speak to online, virtually, face to face. Well, not face to face, but you actually see the person online from 2:30 to 5. You can sign. Actually, there's a sign up sheet. So perhaps I can post that. If you're based in Asia, you can take advantage of that. If you're not, then I think the best way for you to do is to get in touch through email. And I would also leave a link in the comment section so that, if you would like to speak to us, then you can.
That would be very helpful. Thank you so much, Mr. Soy, for your time. And thank you to everyone over here who decided to come and participate in this session. And Mr. Soy, I can understand that it's getting pretty late at your end. So once again, thank you so much. And once you post the email address, I'm going to, okay, here you go. So to all the participants, the link is just posted in our comment section. So admissions.hku.hk/contacts-us. So please make sure that you copy that link. Once again, thank you so much to everyone who participated. And Mr. Soy, thank you. Once again, thank you so much. You have a wonderful
Thank you so much.
evening.
Thank you so much for the audience being so attentive. Thank you so much. I hope you get something out of it, regardless of whether you apply to us or not. And see you around. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.